Inverted Man here. This video popped up on my suggested feed, and I watched it and was deeply disturbed by a lot of what was said. I don't agree with, anything that he says in the video, but rather than addressing all of the video and pointing out all the things that I didn't agree with, there was one major point made in the video that I thought was so important that I needed to address in full. And the other stuff, although I don't agree with it, let's let it slide for now, because this is the point that needs to be addressed.
Third, you'd have to cover how to engage with the alt-right, which is actually pretty straightforward. Don't. The reasoning there may not be immediately obvious, especially if you, say, once devoted an entire video to the importance of talking to anti-feminist hate mobs. So you'll have to explain. You have since then learned how such debates with the far right often go, thanks to conversations with people who have more lived experience than you. If some guy on Twitter shoots his mouth off about how, for instance, only precious snowflakes would care about how many black women are getting roles in Hollywood, maybe you push back on that. Maybe the conversation gets heated. Maybe you debunk his arguments, make your points, and he walks away in a huff. For you, the interaction is over. But for folks on the far right, it often isn't. The far right keeps mental lists of people who represent the things they're mad about. The symbol of the liberal media, the symbol of video game feminism, the symbol of trans activism. FYI, these are usually women and people of color. And these people aren't people to them. They're just icons for a thing. And the way they express anger about those things is to attack those people. So while you leave the argument and have a lie down, eat a sandwich, feel better, he maybe vents his frustration by hacking the email of whomever represents black women in Hollywood this week. This doesn't happen every time, or even most times, but it happens reliably enough that anytime you try and debate with a reactionary, you are gambling with someone else's safety. The purpose of debating these people is not to change their minds, but to stem the flow of lies and bad rhetoric. The alt-right is always recruiting, always trying to expand its audience. And there are ways to reach their intended audience without engaging them directly. It's not only safer, it's often more effective to cut out the middleman, speak past them, not to them. If your purpose is to actually change the mind of a reactionary, well, doing that right is tricky, and doing it wrong can have serious consequences. So until you know for sure how to change the mind of a reactionary without fucking somebody else's life up, do not engage.
That was very long, but it needed to be done in full so that you understand where I'm coming from and where he's coming from on this. There's several layers of message here, but it, in essence, is don't engage, don't debate, don't bother, because it might hurt somebody. It might cause somebody to get so upset that they'll go after somebody and ruin their life. They'll attack them, hurt them in some way, shape, or form. The appeal to consequence is the reason you shouldn't engage. But if you do engage, you got to be really careful. You got to really know what you're doing. You got to be absolutely sure that it's not going to hurt anybody's life. Wow, what a twisted, wrong message that is to send. To appeal to a consequence that you don't know what this person's going to do. You don't know how they're going to react. They might go and hurt somebody else, because that's what they do, obviously, because that's first and foremost is, they're probably going to do that. So it's best not to do it. And really the tactic doesn't work anyways, because you're not going to change their mind anyways. So just don't bother. Just cut out the middleman. Just talk to other people. Just avoid them. That's how you create a arena of unmoving ideas. Your ideas have to be challenged. Your ideas have to be potentially wrong. And to be worried about a hypothetical person hypothetically doing something bad to somebody because you debated them is beyond ridiculous. If they're the sort of person that's going to do something bad, they're going to do that with or without you debating them. And if you were successful in changing their mind, then they wouldn't do that. When you take away conversation, negotiation, debate from the table, how is it anybody is supposed to reason with you or you with them? You have to be able to be wrong. Your ideas need to be subject to public scrutiny. And to appeal to fear and consequence, double logical fallacy there, as a reason not to engage is just utterly pathetic. Here's the thing. If we cannot come to an agreement through conversation, through discussion, through debate, through negotiation, if you're not willing to engage, then the only option left is physical option. I need to remove you, you need to remove me, and whoever overpowers whomever wins. Now, that might mean removing you from society to put in jail, or outside of the walls of society, or it might mean removing you from the mortal coil. In either case, it's bad. And if you're trying to do that to me, well, that's bad too. And so violence then becomes the only recourse because we've taken the option to talk off the table because of supposed fear that people are supposedly going to maybe do something, which they might do anyways. If they're that sort of person, they don't need to be triggered into it. They'll do it on their own if they're going to do it at all. And to run away, to hide away, to make an excuse of why you don't engage by appealing to a possible consequence and appealing to fear is cowardness and removes the thing that holds our society above and apart from others. We have a free marketplace of ideas, and all ideas must be subject to critical analysis, deconstruction, and debate. Every single idea. Yours are not immune from this process. And what happens when you decide, I'm not going to talk to those people, is you create, well, an echo chamber. You create a little bubble of people who agree with you. And you all just excite each other about this idea. And let's go recruit more people. That is starting to sound more like a cult than it is a political following. But maybe this ideology is more cult-like than people want to admit. Far left, far right, I don't care what you call yourself or what you consider yourself. Whoever your supposed enemies are, it doesn't matter. What matters is the argument. That's all that matters in being able to articulate that. Being able to debate somebody and really understand their ideas and really understand where they're coming from, and for them to be able to understand your ideas and where you're coming from, and to be able to make a presentation that might sway them as well as the audience. But no, forget all that. Let's just not engage. Wow. Well, that's the way to violence. That is an assured way to violence because, well, history shows us that, for sure. And what other option is there? Because then people want to be right, and if nobody can talk to anybody, well, then might makes right, doesn't it? And if that's what you want, if that's what you're after, then, well, just skip the whole let's not talk to them. Just go ahead and promote violence. I mean, you might as well at this point, because that's really what you're doing. The rest of your stuff is just, I don't know. I don't know what to make of the alt-right thing, or if anything you've said is true or not. I doubt every bit of it. But to tell people to not engage, that's beyond illogical.